hello again, it's Andy on my Derbyshire All Rider channel, one of my several channels and probably the least viewed of the lot. So today I'm making my way to Homeford Cafe. It's roughly halfway between Whatstandwell and Cromford on the A6. So I'm heading out on Snitterton Road, which I've heard it may be blocked off, so I'll try it anyway. Well, looking at it, it's got bollards across for some strange reason. I've got to turn around and go all the way back, allegedly. So I'm now carrying on Salter Lane. It's a bit narrow and very gravelly. So the route from the centre of Marlock to this cafe, Homeford Cottage Cafe, it's about 4.5 miles by car, or an extra 10 miles by motorbike on the route I've chosen today, because going out on the motorbike isn't a matter of going the shortest way, it's a matter of going the most enjoyable way. And these back lanes are alright, but there does seem to be a lot more gravel, I've noticed, on the last few months. You expect to get some gravel or wash down gravel when it's rained heavy, but we've not had any heavy rain for a while. I don't know if they've totally cut back on the sweeping at the county council or Derbyshire Dales district council, whoever's doing it now, but I'm having to go really carefully on this because it's gravel all the way down the middle of the road. So I'm not really happy about it, because I always enjoy country lanes. I've done about 9 years of riding country lanes on two wheels, and to me this is the worst I've seen it for a long while. And then there's a couple of times when I meet cars coming the other way, though, and just enough room to get past. So today's theme tune, it's a vocal removed version of the end of a song called Toast and Marmalade for Tea that was a minor hit, or probably a non-hit in the 70s, just a catchy song I always remember. So in my trend of putting a different song that's got slight connection with the video that I'm recording, Toast and Marmalade for Tea is probably the nearest cream scones in the afternoon. Quite a tenuous link really, but I like to have a different theme tune each time. Now this one was a very narrow pass. I had to nearly go into Edge to get past this one, who didn't seem to want to reverse up like the previous one that I passed, but he's probably local, so he probably feels more entitled to be on the lane than a motorbike taking a cut through on a pleasure ride just for sake of going on the back lanes rather than the main road. Because the direct route through Matlock Bath, it's sort of roads I've ridden on hundreds of times, so I like to try new lanes out that I've not been on before, and I don't recall being on this one at Salter Lane at all before. So my snack at the cafe is a cream scone, which starts a couple of debates off. What's the difference between a Devon one and a Cornwall one? And is it pronounced Scone or is it pronounced Scone? I've always pronounced it Scone, but logic could have either way, because you say cone, but you say gone, so O-N-E could be either, I suppose. Now the difference between a Devon one and a Cornish one is which goes on first, the jam or the cream. So I had to Google it, 'cause I never remember which one's which, and putting the cream on first, that's the Cornish way apparently. I mean, to me it's just the less messy way. If you're using clotted cream rather than squirty cream, you don't want to be putting the jam on and then trying to spread it over top of the jam. If it was squirty cream, it's totally different. You could put the jam on and then squirt the cream on top. So it's definitely a Cornish scone for today. So if the title, A Taste of Cornwall, it has fooled anybody, it's nothing to do with going to Cornwall. I don't tend to ride out that far on an afternoon ride from Derbyshire, so well, that's a confusing sign. It's got letters rubbed out in both directions, so not really an idea what village I'm heading to without stopping and getting the map out. And I've already had a couple of stops to have a fiddle with beeline again, which seems to be throwing a bit of wobbler. Whether I need to get the new version of it, I don't know, or maybe it's still getting used to my new phone. Speaking of Cornwall, I've only ever been to Cornwall once. Been to Devon several times, and Dorset's a place that we've also liked visiting a few times, but it's a bit of a trek down to Cornwall, to be honest. I think it must be nearly 40 years since last had a family holiday there. Myself, my wife and my daughter when she was quite young at the time. And we used to occasionally borrow my parents' caravette or motorhome, as they tend to call them now. I don't know what the difference is between a camper van and a motorhome is, but we were always caravette back then, or caravanette even. So we did borrow that on a few occasions, and we went down in that. And I know we took about 3 days getting there. I mean, purposely we didn't drive that slow. We had one stop off at in the Cotswolds and another stop off in North Devon before we finally went to our destination. And I know the sites are a bit more primitive than they are now. I think we had electric hookup, if I remember correctly. I needed a plug for that, and to be honest, it was a bit of a disaster in some ways. We had a leaky roof, and we got a flat tyre, and then coming back there seemed to be a problem with wheel bearings, and it was grinding quite a bit of the way back. We did the route back with only one overnight stop rather than two that we had on the way down. So like I was saying, I've taken this really steady down here because it's quite bad with gravel in places, and I know a few others that put material up on YouTube have also commented that the roads seem very gravelly. To me, on two wheels, it's worse than potholes because you can generally notice when you're coming up to a bad pothole, but gravel can take you quite by surprise, and particularly when it's on junctions. There's one of the junctions on here where I had to go more or less over to the far left-hand side to turn right, rather than be accelerating and turning on gravel. It's not very good. Derbyshire County Council, you do need to pull your finger out a bit on the state of the gravel of the roads. And I say that as somebody who used to work for our race department. Now the place I started filming at, I actually started filming but edited it out because I pulled up just on the road outside the centre of Marlock itself to set the camera up and to switch my Relive app on, so the Relive will show a bit longer journey than what I actually took. And the first part of filming was on the bridge, and coincidentally I've got a bit of film on that very spot from 58 years ago. I'll put the inset photo on here. It's one on my other channel about remastered old cine film from the camera that my dad had back in the 60s and 70s. So this one was of a royal visit to Matlock in 1968. So there's like me on the beginning, then a shot of the crowds on the same part of the bridge. I mean, they're not proper photos. They're like screenshots and then slightly remastered. This is a junction where I went right over to the. No, sorry, that's not the one where I went over to the left to turn right, but one very similar where they gravel down the middle, and I totally needed to avoid it. So I'll stop my commentary now and put a bit of music on. So I'm back on the commentary again after about 5 minutes of music, probably a bit more, not counting exactly. I'm editing this video and still putting narration on about 2 days after I did the video. It's probably the longest I've took to do one of these videos. I usually try and get it done the same day. In fact, when I put in music only and no narration, I tended to put it on the same day. It does take me a bit longer now, but at the moment we've got a lodger with us. We've got the grand dog, as we call him, daughter's dog. They're away a few days, so I'm looking after him, and I've got the front curtain shut at the moment because he tends to bark if he sees anybody going past. He thinks it's his territory, so at the moment he's just been doing a bit of gentle growling on and off, so may hear a bit in the background of the commentary. So I cut a bit out going down via Jellier. It's a road that I've done several times, and I'm sure I've put it on film a couple of times, so I thought I'll leave that bit out because the video was rather long. In fact, it's probably over half an hour by the time I finished doing it now. So I've started the filming again, or the bit that I've left in after editing some out. Started that just turning off via Jellier onto the back lane that takes you down to Middleton by Wirksworth, and then eventually onto Middleton. I've never actually stopped anywhere, called anywhere in Middleton by Wirksworth, but I do think it looks a nice village. The traffic lights where the crossroads are, the road crossing that is the one that goes from Carsington down towards Cromford, just to get bearings on it. And then onto Wirksworth, which is a nice little town that gets praised quite a lot as one of the nicest places to live. One thing that it's sort of almost famous for, it was the setting for a TV drama called Sweet Medicine. I think it may have been the same writers as Peak Practice, which had enormous success, and they did try to capitalise on the idea of having a doctor's surgery in the Peak District, but this was in 2003 it was shown, but it had a single series of 10 episodes, then flopped, so it was nowhere near living up to the popularity of Peak Practice. Just going back to the beginning of the video, I did mention that the place I started, I've got some film of it there from 58 years ago when I was a 10-year-old, or 11-year-old probably. What it was, it's a royal visit to Matlock by the late Queen. There's very little of actually captured on the video itself, which is an old cine film. I've put the link onto my other site that's got some old cine film stuff on. There's just a couple of minutes of the crowds, but it does give a good indication of what the centre of Matlock looked like in 1968. So I'll put that on the inset as a photo. And heading out of Matlock, there used to be a little kiddies visitor farm called Matlock Meadows, not to be confused with Matlock Farm Park. It's just a little place with free entry, and there are a few animals there for kids to make a fuss of, a nice cafe, and then they had things to climb on, and at one time they had electric go-karts that went round, which it was worth taking grandkids for a cheap day out. But I'm sure I used to head up by the route across the bridge in Marlock, rather than the one round Sainsbury's. I could be mistaken, but can't think how long Sainsbury's has been there in Matlock now. It's probably predates the years my grandkids were born anyway, so I don't know if that road were put in specifically for going round that way. Another issue I had with the editing is the relive map that I put on at the end. I noticed it had got place names missing, and it's a bit meaningless putting your route on if the place names aren't showing up. And looking back, the last couple of videos are like that, so I'm not going back and re-editing them because they're already uploaded to YouTube, so I can't do a lot with that really. I don't know if something changed in the settings when it transferred from my old iPhone to iPhone 16 that I've got now. I mean, most apps transfer over just by sitting phones at the side of each other, but I have found that I've got to put fresh passwords in a lot of things, and it may be that some settings got altered then, but I've now managed to do a bit of fiddling around with the settings, and it does seem okay now, but that meant more editing of the video to put a different map on the end. So the cafe that I'm heading to, Homeford Cottage Tearooms, I'd assumed it were closed. I thought it closed down a while back, but apparently it's been open a few months. It may be that we normally pass on a Wednesday if we're going that way on a group ride, and it just looks shut, and it turns out that Tuesday and Wednesday are their weekend, which you can't blame them. You've got to have a bit of time off, so I sort of saw it got a mention on Facebook, probably on Matlock Bikers group actually, that it is open and it's nice and biker friendly, so I'm just paying my first visit, just arriving at it on the video now. It does do full breakfast, but not on the day that I'd normally be going that way to have a full breakfast, so I just settled with my Cornish cream scone and a nice milkshake in a jam jar, which is quite novel, but I know a lot of cafes like doing novelty things like putting your meals out on a slate, which isn't much good if you want gravy on, but it's all a bit of a modern novelty, and it was quite a nice welcoming cafe. So I'm just approaching it now, and just got a couple of photos on at the end, and up to where I park up on the bike. I've also put at the beginning I've put my cream scone and my milkshake in a jar. So my map is edited on the end now, so hopefully it is a bit clearer of the route that I took. It's the A6 we're on at the moment, just pulling into the cafe. It's got plenty of nice outdoor seatings and a bit under shelter from the heat that we've been having for the last few days. So I'll say goodbye for now and see you next time. Cheers.